We come to what are the most boring 4 weeks in gospel readings in the 3 years that we have electionary, and that is for the next 3 weeks after this week, we have Jesus being bread. One time I did a series, and the first week I did about yeast, and the second week about wheat, and the third week about sugar, and the fourth week about kneading, and then I baked the bread. And I made 2 loaves and gave it to the congregation and said, "Eat your fill," trying to do the feeding of the 5,000. It only made it through the second row. Proving once again, in case anybody needed any evidence, I am not Jesus. What we have today in the gospel lesson is, in fact, if you would all let yourselves see it, some really pathetic people and a really angry Jesus. We don't often get to see the angry side of Jesus, but if you look at the words and you look carefully at the flow of the dialogue, what happened was, last week, remember, he fed 5,000 people. And then he takes off, and he goes across to the other side of the lake, and the people who are still hungry go chasing after him to get more bread. It's free. They can get it. So they say, "Jesus, give us this bread." And he says, "You came out yesterday to see me because you wanted bread, and you got it. And now you're back today wanting more." In other words, the people are behaving just like you and me. "What have you done for me lately, Jesus? Give me bread." And so Jesus, being the clever Jesus that he is, starts to talk to them theologically about his understanding of what it means to be fed. And he says, you know, you can have bread today and you'll be back tomorrow. It's not what have I done for you, it's what have you done for me. And they say, "Okay, tell us how we're supposed to do for God." And he says, "Do God's will." And they say, "Well, tell us how to do God's will." And he says, "Do God's will." And they say, "Okay, then give us a sign that will tell us that you're the one that we should be paying attention to." Okay, do you realize how insulting that is? The guys just fed him. They're coming to him. They are the beggars. It reminds me of stuff I used to hear when I was a rector. And I would hear this from parents. And they would say to me, "Well, if you just make church a little more interesting, my kids would come." And I would say, "Do you say that to them about their school?" "Well, no." What? So what you're saying, therefore, is God takes a second place to their education. That's what you're saying. Do you know, there are people here who actually are saying this. I've heard it twice this week. "I'm not going to give to the capital campaign until I see who the new rector is." I'm not making this up. Okay? I thought that the parish hall was the churches, not the rectors. Maybe we should call it the rector hall. I thought that this was giving ourselves something we wanted. What's that have to do with the rector? In other words, feed me. Feed me. That's your job. Feed me. And what Jesus is saying, and what I want to say to you today is, your responsibility is to be here and praise God. That's what it means to be a practicing Christian. It means worshiping God. It means giving God God's due, and maybe asking for yourself if God would give you a little in return. It means yourself up to the fact that without God, you wouldn't even have the air you're currently breathing. It means opening yourself up to the fact that what Christ is talking about is true bread, not just a fat belly. I know, I speak the truth. The point here is essential, is that we who call ourselves Christians have a responsibility, and our responsibility is not to be entertained. It is to worship. Our responsibility is not to be amused. It's to pray. Our responsibility is not to get what I can get, but to give what I can give. That's our work. And when you do that, Jesus is very clear. Then you're doing God's will. And you will get the bread. And the bread you will get, says Jesus, is Jesus himself. I am the bread of life, says Christ. You will take Jesus in a few minutes right into you today. Be aware that Jesus is sacrificing himself for you every minute of every day. And respond in love to that gift. Amen.
Amen.